Day of reckoning arrived, 15th of August 2025, and we all met up at Ferrybridge Services. There was me on Rhonda the Honda, Dave on his CVO Ultra, Helen on her Softail Standard, Graham with Deborah riding pillion on their Street Glide Special, which is in brilliant red, Tony with Linda riding pillion on their Road King Special, John on his FLFBS 30th Anniversary Fat Boy, and Andrew on his new Pan American CVO. We were just waiting for one more to arrive. At virtually the time of departure, 4:25 p.m, Steve arrived on his other bike. Let's just call her Gertrude, since she was German. And Gertrude sounds a good German name. Gertrude was a BMW 1200 GS, and everyone looked at him in shock. "What's that?" they all said. Well, actually, there may have been an explicit word in that as well. Steve's response was preempted. His Harley was also in the garage, but the reality was his was not getting fixed. He was just too noisy and he didn't want any fines. Now, I was aware of this, but only last minute really. This was going to be a bit of a joke that continued throughout the trip. So now we had two non-Harleys, Gertrude and Rhonda. Sadly, through no choice of my own was mine, and one obviously was not. The Pan American, and then what I call 5 good-looking Harleys. Now, I gave everyone a once-only debrief. This tour was for riding, and I didn't want to waste time each day doing a debrief like we do on our club rideouts. They all had the riding itinerary, they had each day's leg breakdown, and they knew all they needed. I just needed them to know what I expected. Riding the buddy system, looking after the bike directly behind you, riding in formation when we're in busy places where we could be together, and spreading out when we were on open country roads. Now, they were all experienced riders, all competent riders, so I had no fears once done. And Helen, she was like a child waiting for Christmas leading up to the trip. She had not ridden solo before in anything quite like this, but boy could she ride. She could put a lot of the men in the club to shame. So after steadying her nerves, we all set off for Hull. This was officially day one of the trip, incorporating both Friday evening and Saturday's ride. We rode the 50 miles to Hull, fueled the bike so we had a full tank to start the next day, and then entered the King George docks. We passed through customs, who, to be fair, were mighty impressed with my organisation skills. I had listed everybody's booking references, got them all in order, and it made embarkment a total breeze. We secured the bikes and made our way to our rooms, dumped our gear in there and headed to the bar for a pre-sale off drink. Some may have had a few more, but I needed to ensure my head was clear, so only one it was for me. We then headed for dinner and then back to the sun deck to see the sail away. Next morning, we disembarked around 9 a.m. and cleared customs by about 9:45 a.m, which was pretty good really. Graham had asked if they had to stay in the previous riding order. Certainly not, I told him. Ride where you want to now, which was quite amusing for me, as they all seemed to like being directly behind me. At any given stop, when we reset off, it was like a mass exodus to get behind me. Everyone positioning themselves to be behind or as close to behind as me as possible. And I did find it quite amusing watching the show going on in my mirrors behind me. This happened time and time again. We were riding from Rotterdam to Bühl, which is in Germany. The route was predominantly on the motorway, and unfortunately this was a needs must, and certainly not how I normally like to go on a ride out. It certainly was not the best way to see Germany, so I put in a little detour, a quick visit to Koblenz Harley-Davidson. We just made it in time before they closed. We arrived at 1:45 p.m, and fair play to them, they stayed open for us. It was around 2:20 p.m. when we left, and they could close and then go home. We got bottles of Coke, water and even non-alcoholic lager out of their cooler, all for free. That's what you call good service. It was hot, by the way, so it was really needed. They came outside and took photos for us. They were very nice and accommodating. Now that's how to look after your customers, unlike some other dealerships I could mention closer to home. But for our part, we did spend plenty of money on t-shirts and other memorabilia. Leaving the dealership and a little coffee stop, which was needed, we headed down the west side of the Rhine. This was a really nice ride with great views overlooking the river, castles perched on top of the hills, the cruise boats heading up and down the Rhine. We eventually stopped at Pfalzgrafenstein Castle, that's a mouthful to say, located in the middle of the Rhine for a photo stop, which soon became a 30-minute stop before we continued our route. And at Bingen, we turned away from the Rhine, heading south and rejoined the motorway, making our way to our first hotel, which was the Rebstock Kappelwindeck in Bühl, which is just south of Baden-Baden. What a lovely hotel it was. Now, we were half bored at all of our hotels, so we were eager for a shower and our evening meal. After checking in and having a well-deserved shower, we met in the bar and enjoyed a cold one. The temperature outside was in the top 20s, and then we were seated to eat. The food was fantastic, and there were plenty of it. In fact, they presented far too much, which made up for the fact it was a limited menu. But everyone enjoyed it. After another cold Coke for me, obviously everybody else had lagers and things, I left everyone chatting and made my way into my room. I had to speak to my wife, Janice, as I'd not had time to earlier before editing my camera footage to produce a video of the day before I went to bed. I'm sure the others all enjoyed a couple more cold ones, which will have slid down nicely. Day one had been a 386-mile ride, which included quite a few jokes about Gertrude at each stop location. Couldn't let it slip. Something which was going to be part of the course. But Steve, fair play to him, he took it all in his stride.